Welcome to the Sleepy G Show. I'm the host for your most. My name is Gomez, and tonight, like I said, I actually had a special treat with the first guest not too long ago, and now I have the other half of the dynamic duo of In Theory. I have Mike, who is the lead guitarist of In Theory, but he also wears a different hat too. He's also the producer. Mike, how are you tonight?
I'm fantastic. How about yourself?
It's a Sunday night. I'm blessed. I'm happy. Kids are sleeping. Wife is happy, and I'm doing good, man. I can't complain.
Oh, there you go. Me,
Now,
I'm just recording. So,
yeah, I was gonna say, I know you're recording today because you're in the studio, which I love the background. I got to see the guitar. The guitar's right there a little bit. It's kind of cool, man.
yeah, a little guitar. Yeah,
Yeah, look at that sucker. That's a beautiful guitar, man.
my little puppy.
You know what? It's funny. I always loved guitar players, and I always want to learn, but I never had a chance to play guitar, man. But the just being a lead guitarist has to be huge, but also you wear a different hat for In Theory. You're also the producer of.
That's
Now, how did that come about? You becoming the producer of this for In Theory too?
that's you have like a 3 hour show.
Uh, that
um,
must
how
that's a good one. Then if it's a 3 hour show, you need.
uh, how it came about. Um, Initially, I was doing another record for one of the companies I own. It's called Go Go Tuners, um, and it was a very eclectic record, and going from metal to R&B to like a Disney ballad to Latin pop, all over the place, blues, and that was really the debut of In Theory, in a different incarnation, different version of it. And for that record, I decided I was going to be the producer essentially, and from that it just kept rolling, from there. And yeah, I just never looked back. So it's been that was the catalyst. Just really that was like the first one to really fully produce, and
Mhm.
um, what a learning process that was. I mean, and
Yeah,
I
I
record,
imagined.
and I really just want to be the best student I can, as for the producing end of things. And I was just absorbing everything that I could. And and I think with In Theory it finally came out, everything that I've been learning. And but yeah, there's so much. But yeah, that's pretty much how it started, in a very condensed way.
So we did have Tony on the show this past week. First of all, I gotta say both of you guys are truly awesome, and he's got that awesome voice of Chris Cornell, and
Oh,
you have this electrifying. When I mean guitar playing, I mean it's like one of your things that said, and I mentioned it in your profile, saying it's like a swampy version of Led Zeppelin. It's got that old soul, music. You know what I mean? Like it's like it has that. I don't know, like that. It's like old soul meets classic rock with old school '70s rock. You know what I mean? Like it's got that mixture.
right, right.
And man, I could tell you, I could appreciate that because when I was listening to the songs the other day, especially one of my favorite ones, besides Heroes, is "Stand on My Soul." I just hear that, you know what I mean? Like I hear
Right.
the riff, the guitar playing, and just hearing the passion, the way you play the guitar is so amazing. That's hard for a lot of people.
I appreciate that. That's a big compliment to live up to. I appreciate that. That's awesome of that you like the music,
I
especially the guitar.
actually, I love it. I mean, it's funny because Tony asked me is like, he said I was a genuine guy and being honest because I just don't go, oh, I want you on my show. I want you on my show. I actually get music from people. They'll send it to me, and I'm like, all right. And when I heard "Stand on My Soul" for the first time, I'm like, yeah, these guys really are ripping it, man. I love it. I love their sound. I love what they're about.
Thank you. Yeah, it's funny that on that song we get, especially guitar wise,
Mhm.
and I wasn't going for it, but I guess it naturally comes out, but it's people are saying it's like from something from the first or second ZZ Top record, as far
Yeah.
as the tone and the feel. They're like, that's from ZZ Top. And and the funny thing is, at the time, it's not what I was going for.
Mhm.
But when I was playing it, the engineer's like, man, that sounds like something for ZZ Top. I go, let me play it. And I mean, let me hear it. And so I got to A-B it. I'm like, you know what? It does sound similar to that. That's not a bad comparison. I'm rolling with it.
It's not because man, ZZ Top, I mean, I could one of my favorite songs, and I'll say it has been one is the Lagrange. I
Mhm.
just love that opening with the guitar. Dun, dun,
Right?
dun, 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 dun. I love that because it's so deep south. It's so Texas style too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, they definitely have the Texas sound.
Oh yeah, without a doubt they do. And but you have probably a legit, I mean, an elite singer like Tony, man. He he's got that Chris Cornell. I can't think of another singer, but I think he's got that voice because when I heard it the first time, Mike, I was just like, holy shit. The hairs in the back of my neck stood up because I thought I was listening to freaking Chris Cornell.
We get that a lot. Yeah. And Tony has that effect on people. It's never I call it a lukewarm response. It's always like you said, oh shit, who is that guy?
Well, that's
And
what it was. It's like, oh shit, you're right.
and I tell Tony this all the time, and you know, and it doesn't matter if it's a fan of the of rock, a fan of R&B, a fan of jazz, and like down here in Muscle Shoals, that I get to play with some of these guys that work with Etta James and Aretha Franklin and Wilson Pickett, to obviously working with Vinny Appice. Like it's the full gamut. But no matter who it is, whether it's a legendary guy or a fan, the reaction to Tony is the same. Like, who is that guy? Like,
Yeah.
even if they don't even know who Chris Cornell is, they
It's
look at Tony like, who is that guy? That guy's killer.
Mhm.
So that's, like I said, it doesn't matter. I was gonna say it doesn't matter if you're 15 years old or 70 years old. Tony has that effect on everybody that hears him.
the effect is just so amazing because his voice is so powerful. But that's also complimenting from also your guitar playing.
I
We don't want
appreciate it.
we don't want to take that away either because as the lead guitarist in the band, I watched like 2 or 3 videos of you, man. And when you're in it, you're like in your zone. Like nothing can rip you away from that zone, man. I've seen 2 videos of you, man, and I'm just like, wow, look at him. And you don't see that type of guitar playing much anymore. Everyone,
Well, I appreciate that. That's very accurate. It's like I know you're into your football thing. It's like,
no, no,
and
but
that
I'm still giving the passion to you too. You know what I mean?
no,
Because
no,
that's the whole thing.
you know, it's like you get in a zone when like even as an athlete or a football player or musician or you just for me it's that's the best way of describing it. Like zone is great. I just put everything into it, and if you see me live, it's even more so. I'm a very emotional, passionate person when it comes to my playing, and I think that's what you're hearing.
Mhm.
And it's interesting. Like I got described, and I thought it was actually quite accurate the other day. They said I'm sort of scientific um, meets emotional. I'm always emotional in what I do, and
That's
and when
good,
I
man.
play, yeah, and because I am methodical, like basically behind the scenes, I'm extremely methodical, right? And I work on many things, many techniques, and study, and but when it comes time to perform,
Right.
and when I say not only perform live, but perform in the studio and just play, it's just all heart at that point, and whatever comes. Like I don't. There's nothing methodical at that time. It's just that's the best way of describing it. So when you're saying, yeah, you're picking up I'm in the zone, that's probably very accurate thing. I'm not thinking about what scale should I play in. Should I play fast? Should I play? I'm just going for it, and fingers crossed. I'm doing a good job of it, and yeah, that's pretty accurate what you're saying.
And that's the thing, like, I have like my passion is my show. You know what I mean? This is like my passion project, let's just call it. You know what I mean? Like this is what I love to do. I love reaching out, talking to guys like you, Tony, guys that have this little history. Like Tony told me you guys actually started back early in the '90s when the grunge era really hit you guys pretty hard.
Yeah,
Grunge became a thing, and you guys were more of the rock style, which I get, and that's something that a lot of people don't realize. Like old school rock, like a Deep Purple, like as we were talking, me and Tony, Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin, Queen, Jimi Hendrix. You talk about that feel that you guys have, but then you update it your way, your version. It's unreal.
right, right. I mean, that was again like my role as a producer is to find the right blend, and I best way I can describe it is like like I'm a chef, and
Right.
this song is this meal, and or the sound of the band is this meal, and it's the same thing just like with a great meal. If you put too much salt, too much pepper, too much of this, it's no good anymore. And that's my job within In Theory, is to find the right amount of ingredients so I can always capture both.
And I'll say you've caught my ears, and I know you've caught so many listeners' ears because as a chef, and I say Tony's your sous chef, because he's spitting out the lyrics that you guys write down. But I think you guys have such a great combination, and the presence you guys have together is like an amazing thing. Like you just don't see anymore.
Yeah, we feel like we can be, and you're right. It's missing. It's like you need the Page Plant, you need the Tyler Perry. That's the two strong guys up front, and it's and also the chemistry, with those guys.
Yeah,
And,
I mean, you guys have a great chemistry together.
yeah, we want to kill each other half the time, but we have a great,
Well, isn't that like with anybody? It's like anybody you want to hurt somebody after a while, But I felt like I said, Tony said so much wonderful things about you, like how you guys are very tight, like brothers, and how you guys work so well together for so many years, and to be in a band again together with In Theory it's like the best thing ever,
right.
Yeah.
And, yeah. I mean, the say we're brothers. Yeah. I mean, I feel like if there could be a word that's closer than brothers, that we're that. And I'm not sure how much Tony went into, but I think there's been several things. It's not just the music. I think in life itself. When I first joined Tony's band way back in the day, our brothers both died or passed away within 6 months or 7 months of him and I knowing each other.
Wow.
So I always say that's a club that I don't wish upon anybody, but that was one of the things that bonded Tony and I, very very early on. And and I think it comes through in our music, it comes in through our life, and it comes through our friendship. But yeah, like only if it's happened to you, you can really understand being in those shoes. And so him and I we're there for each other, and and here we are, many years later, and yeah, I mean, we're closer than ever.
I unfortunately I know how it is because I lost my dad when I was 21 years old. So for me to lose my dad, who was my brother, my best friend, my dad rolled up into one, it's hard, you know what I mean? And I get that.
Right.
With that, what you and Tony have suffered, because it's not easy, uh, you know, uh, I gotta say, if you guys were together at that point, that's like the best thing it could happen for you. You know what I mean? Because when I lost my dad, I kind of lost myself for a while.
Right.
I connected with a lot of at that time Chris Cornell's music, Linkin Park, and one of the songs that always stuck with me was "Somewhere I Belong." And at that point, I was trying to figure out, where do I belong? Where am I going to go in life? What am I going to do? Um, I'll say it. I was drinking a lot at that point. That was kind of like my savior, my crutch. Every time I felt bad, but I mean, when I was drinking bad. Like, I had
Right.
these big bottles of I had big things like this of cups, almost like my Yetis, like a 40 ouncer, and
Sure.
it was filled with Jack and Coke. I took
Yeah. You
two.
have to, numb the pain, or
Right.
go through the pain,
But
It's funny, it's funny that you mentioned these now, like I got that riff in my head now, was it? Was it?
somewhere I belong.
No, I'm trying to think what the riff is. Now I just forgot it.
Tush. No, Legrand's. Dun, dun, dun,
You
dun,
mentioned
dun.
it earlier, right?
Yeah, that I was hearing it as soon as you were playing. I'm like, yes, there it is. But the one thing is, like, I noticed, like with Tony and you, it's how you guys, like, I've never seen you two interact, but just listening to him and listening to you guys and talking to you right now, even the 21 minutes that you and I have talked about, I hear the love for both of you guys and the respect.
Mhm.
Now, I know I know as we're in the producer cap, there's times you're like, hey, redo it. Something didn't hit it right. And you're like, and Tony would be like, what the hell, man? I hit that note several times. But you would know, because as a producer, you're listening to the sound, but you're also listening to his voice. You would know if he hit it right or not.
Well, there's many things. It's not even just hitting it in key or hitting it right. There's many times that there's an emotion I'm trying to capture, and it's a funny thing working with Tony. And like I said, I've probably has to be in the thousands of hours of I've heard Tony's voice just by itself. Way back in the day,
Right.
even when he was not in the producer role, so to speak, I was there producing the vocals with him, for him.
Mhm.
Um, the role hasn't changed that much, except now there's other responsibilities with it. But I've heard so much of Tony's voice that I know his strengths, I know his weaknesses, I know what it takes to get a certain performance out of him. I know when it's not right. I know when he can do better. I know when he just kills it.
Mhm.
Um, and the thing about Tony as well, I also know when to bring sometimes he needs the reassurance. I think there's times, believe it or not, even though he sounds like Cornell, and I think in some aspects, even better, many times.
Yeah.
And he's just, he's a killer singer. Let's just put it that
Yes.
way. But many times he doesn't think so. So, sometimes, being a producer, you're part psychologist as well. So there's times where I had to be very hard on him, very, critical. And then there's times where you have to make sure you're building him up, to remind him, like, no, that was killer. And many times we'll go through this and he's like, really, that was killer? I'm like, yeah, we're not touching that. We're leaving it. And then he's like, okay. And so I think the trust goes both ways, because if I go, yeah, no, you got it. He
Right.
won't, he won't second guess it. He knows.
He'll
uh,
know. He just knows that it's there.
right. Right. And it took, obviously, years of trust to do it. And, but yeah, that's the process, but I know that Tony's also very, like when he's singing, he's thinking a lot of times, technique. So, and look, guitar players are guilty of this, singers are guilty of this, is a lot of times they're not thinking about what they actually sang.
Mhm.
They are thinking about what it took to hit that note. And say if it was a little bit rough to hit that note, but no one hears it. But in their mind, they knew it was a little bit difficult to hit the notes. So they're like, oh, no, it's not good. So that's where it's a key for me to jump in, like, nope, that's good.
Mhm.
And like I said, and it's worked the opposite, where I'm like, not even close. Because Tony also has this thing in his voice I used to call it, I used to call them a tube amp, like, I'm not sure if you're familiar with guitar amps and so forth, but
Not a whole lot. I've lifted them. I pushed them, but I'm not, I don't know much about them.
so especially way back when I first was working with Tony's vocals, I just noticed it would always take a couple of hours to, if you want to call it warming up.
Yeah.
I call it just getting a certain tone. But soon if he gets that tone, then he can go on and on with what I call the magic tone. Like he's got this certain thing. But it takes him a while to get there.
Right.
So I call him the tube amp, because like on an amp, like in a guitar amp, once the tubes hit a certain heat, that amp has that sweet sound, and you can play that amp for hours and hours, and that tone's just going to be magic for hours. But it takes time for the tubes to heat up to get you that tone. And Tony's the human version of that.
Now, I know you in an earlier you mentioned one of your ventures, Go-Go Tuners. Now, how did that come involved with your for your business and everything, besides playing music and with the band and everything? But how did Go-Go Tuners develop?
Well, Go-Go came out of a few things. I had owned a very successful music rep company. And when the rep company, you're representing, I got to represent some of the biggest brands, and I had and I did something quite different in that industry. It was something that was not done prior. But then I noticed, I'm like, well, I'm selling, well, guitars and amps and so forth. And you get only a small percentage. You get your commission out of it. So I'm like, well, I want to make my own product. I have relationships with all these dealers. I have a dealer base. I have a sales channel. And then I was trying to decide for years what type of product I would do. And literally I went all over the world deciding on what I wanted to do. I went to China at least 14, 15 times. Germany, maybe for this venture, 8 times, Japan. And so finally, I had decided, I'm gonna make a tuner. And for me, one of the things is, as every guitar player always loses their tuner. They're always changing out their tuner. So it's a very, and every musician needs a tuner. So for me, it was a universal product. And it's recession proof. Maybe people can't afford guitars, but they will always get a pedal, or a tuner. So for me, it checked all the boxes of what I thought, a category or a product that would never fail. And then it took, I want to make a better mousetrap. So in my tuners, it's 2 big things. It's the largest screen pedal tuner in the world.
Wow. Okay.
So when it gets really dark, I mean, you can see that thing maybe from 200 feet, which is not an exaggeration, probably about 200 feet. And then the biggest thing in which really blew Go-Go up was the fact that you can see it in direct sunlight. So the fact you have all these festival gigs and just people doing day gigs, and a lot of times they're trying to position the tuner or the pedal board in the shade so they can see it. Or they'll use like umbrella drinks or cardboard. In my case, even direct sunlight, you can still see if you're in tune.
And that's awesome. My God, biggest screen on a tuner. That's got to be kind of cool to say that's your development. You know what I mean?
That's my puppy. Yeah. And like I said, each one took me, each product took me about 14 to 16 months to develop.
And some of the biggest names have it too, probably.
You name it from, like in the jazz world, Stanley Clark and Goucher, to Ice-T, to the guys from Rat, Warrant,
Nice.
I'm not sure what genres you follow, but like Steve Wariner and Johnny
Mhm.
Highland in the country world. Um, I mean, and like in the Latin rock world, there's a band called Maná. I
Yeah,
think right.
I know them very well.
They use go-go, and not only do they use go-go, let me add one more thing. They are the biggest In Theory fans.
Say, look at that.
And on top of that, they did a commercial. They're the most wonderful people. The guys in Mana, um, they did a commercial, or not say commercial, but they did it on the phone. They did a video,
Hmm.
and they were playing the In Theory record, and they sent out a message to all the Mana fans on how they should check out this band called In Theory.
That's so awesome though to hear that.
And they didn't want anything in return. They just loved it, and they loved the band. And how I met them was actually through GoGo. I was endorsing them. I never heard of them before. It was the funniest thing. And um, the funniest thing is they were using GoGo before I endorsed them. And my friend who sold them the tuners sent me a video of them walking into the MGM Grand with my tuners. And he goes, Mike, you should really endorse them. And then it was this girl I was dating at. I said, do you know who this band is, Mana? And happens to be the biggest Mana fan on the planet. And she's like, Mike, do you know who they are? They're like rock royalty, Spanish rock royalty, and like you have no idea. I'm like, well, I'm bringing them on, but I would bring them on regardless. Like I have a philosophy with that, and it is, I don't care if you're a high school kid and playing to zero people, or you're the biggest band on the planet. If you really love my product, I will endorse you. It's that simple. Because to me, there's nothing more powerful than someone who actually uses it and loves it. So for me, the criteria, and like I said, I mean, I do have guys as big as like Stanley Clark and those guys, and I'm not sure if you know who it is, Ron Carter, do you know who he is, Ron Carter?
I've heard of them. I don't know him, like per se, but I've heard of them. Yes.
So like in that world, so if you took, obviously, Stanley Clark, right?
Yes.
Okay. Stanley Clark's idol is Ron Carter.
That's amazing
So,
to hear that.
so to have Ron Carter and Stanley, and then obviously like this bass player is Andrew Goucher, and he was another guy, very interesting. I didn't know who he was. He came down to a show we were doing, and it was actually the debut of In Theory, so to speak,
Okay.
at a thing. And I just remember everybody in the place was like, first my buddy played with him the night before. He says, Mike, I'm bringing Goucher down. I'm like, okay.
Like,
It's
cool.
Mike. I'm bringing Goucher. And I'm like, okay. And I was really ignorant. I was like, does he need to be on the guest list? Like, how do you spell his? I didn't know. Like, I didn't.
I don't know how to say his name.
And so he brought him down, and I remember the reaction in the venue we were playing, and everybody that knew gospel music or that was a bass player, they were all like, "Oh, Goucher's here, like, And then he sat in the front row, and while we played, and then he came up to me afterwards. He said, "Hey, I'm Andrew, and I love your product. I was in the studio the day before. How do I get on board?" And I had my pedal board with all extra go-go stuff.
Nice.
And I went through, I go, which ones do you like? And, all right. And I walked him through it. I just ripped it off my pedal board and I go, here you go. Take them.
Take him. That's awesome.
And then finally, my friend who introduced us, he goes, Mike, he goes, can you just Google him? And I look it up. The very first line is, the godfather of gospel bass. And he really brought the bass into the gospel music before that was played on organ.
Right.
And so he's, I think, the most recorded gospel bassist in history, but which is really big in itself. But where else his other side gigs that sort of put him on the map. He was a bass player for Prince for 10 years and Michael Jackson. So yeah.
So he's played with some big names too.
So yeah, and then like I said, when I made at the time I was working on the Go-Go record, he was on a Goucher, the guys from Mana, Ice-T's band, Jordan from Rat. I had this all different sorts of people on this thing.
And that's so amazing though, Mike, because I mean, seeing for me, like, for me, talking to you and Tony is like big time for me, you know what I mean? Like,
Uh,
for this is like huge for me because, you're with Jimmy Warren with Fret Bar Records, which is like an
right,
exciting thing. And he just signed actually Colossal Street Jam.
right,
Um,
that's right.
Actually, I just had them on the show on August. I had Gene Potts come on my show, which is it was kind of freaky. I was like, what? No way. That's like so exciting. You know what I mean?
Right, right. He's a
Um,
good, yeah, he's a good player too.
he is, and he's got an incredible voice. And
Right.
I was just talking to Gene,
Oh,
and
you're talking about Sal. Sal's in his band, right?
Sal's in his band. Sal's the guitar player. Gene's the singer. Both of them are very good. Um, I actually had the honor to talk to Gene a few weeks ago on my show, and I emailed him. He hit me up on Facebook. He's like, "Oh, I got some incredible news happening. I'm gonna keep you posted." And then all of a sudden, he's like, "Dude, you got to understand. We're gonna, he told me under secrecy. We're gonna be with Fret Bar." I go, "No way! I'm just talking to Tony from In Theory from Fret Bar, And
Right,
he's
right,
and that was like, and that's how we connected on Facebook the other night. You know what I mean? So
right, right.
it's really cool because for me, it's one of those things. Like I appreciate people who come on and talk to me because it means a lot to me. And hearing you and Tony, and I'm actually I'm inviting Jimmy to come on my show too. So I have the like all you guys already
Right,
here.
right.
It's a cool thing. Talk about how you guys got signed with Fret Bar. Like that was like a huge thing too.
Yeah, well, it's funny. It seems like it all goes back to go-go,
Okay,
apparently.
there we go.
Um uh how it's really fun because Jimmy's a great guitar player, and sure enough he was looking for a tuner at the time. It was
Nice.
several years ago. And the guitar player who actually I think plays with Ron Keel, Steve,
Mhm.
said to Jimmy, "You should talk to Mike. He's got this really cool tuner." And that's how I met Jimmy. And then we started talking, and then like he'll always tell a story. Like all of a sudden he's like, "Huh, Mike can play guitar too." Like it was almost like that. And
Right.
as he was I think as he started looking deeper, like, all of a sudden he's like, "Oh wait, Mike's playing with Victor Wooten. Oh, Mike's playing with Rob Morgan. All this other stuff." He starts
Mhm.
seeing, and then I end up, being on his show, and we were talking about, you know, the collaborative stuff I was doing, and then talking about In Theory, and then as time went on again, um, he saw some other video, and he's like, "Mike, I should have really dug deeper. Like, you can play, like." So we ended up doing another interview after that.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and then from that, um, he was doing the guitar show up in Chicago. And,
Okay.
and I saw that, Jerry James Nichols was on there and Blacktop Mojo. And, and I just asked Jimmy, I said, "Jimmy, how do I get on this bill?" And it was really as simple as that. Jimmy goes, "Why don't you just ask me?" I said, "Jimmy, can I be on the bill?" And that was it. He goes, "Yep, you're on."
You're
Next day,
on.
I'm on all the ads with Jared and Chuck and the guys, and I think we had Steve also from Mario Speedway. So it was so that's where I finally got to meet Jimmy in person. But we've spoken so many times prior, and I had sent him the In Theory record prior.
Oh,
What I did is to all the people that have been supporting us early on when we had the record done. I wrote like a thank you letter,
right.
thank you note, and I sent everybody a copy of the record.
Mm.
And so finally Jimmy got to hear the full record, and he's like, "Oh my God, you guys are like killer." Like, he's like, anyway, he was just going on and on, like, not only you're a great guitar player, he goes, "But man, your band's great." And then we did the thing with the show. I end up playing a couple days, and maybe it was a few weeks later, he goes, "Mike, put my label together." He goes, "Do do you want to be on our label? Essentially, that was it. He's like, I think you guys should be on it. I think you'd be a great fit for, for the
Right.
music you're doing, where I'm trying to go, we should do something. And it was really that basic, and but I call it basic, but it was a 4-year journey because I knew Jimmy for 4 years.
Right. You were saying that before.
Yeah.
But that's so cool though, man, to hear that kind of a story. You don't really get to hear how sometimes people get signed, you know what I mean? It's one of those things. And to hear how you guys did, it's like the coolest thing I've ever heard because, like I said, I'm more starstruck with you and Tony, you know what I mean? I'm gonna be honest with you. You know what I mean? I have I had local New Jersey celebrities come on, but it's like I kind of knew them before. Like,
Right, right.
I was always talking to them through Instagram, and when they came on the show, it was very cool. You know what I mean? And to quote Tony, this was pretty cool because he sent me a message through Instagram, and I follow all you guys now on Instagram too. And seeing this one from Tony meant a lot to me because it was the first time we met and talked to, and he goes, he had a blast. Thank you for inviting me, and hope to meet me in person. Like, hopefully one day I get to meet you guys. You know what I mean?
Right.
And he said, let's stay in touch. But this was one of my favorite things. I wish you could look on your show. You're a great interviewer, 100% on fire. Like you had the fire emoji.
Right.
For
Mm-hmm.
me, that's like a huge compliment. You know what I mean? Coming from a band, lead singer bandmate to say that to me because I was giving him so much kudos, just like I have with you tonight. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, and to add a little bit more to that, privately, Tony sent a message out to myself and Jimmy raving about you.
Oh, nice. That's
He
really
sent it.
cool.
He goes, yeah, he was raving about it. He was raving about your interview with him.
It means
So
a lot because, like, I like what he says. Like the passion, you can tell I'm legit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not here to BS. I'm here to talk about what you guys are about. You know what I mean? And the one thing like I said, I love hearing the organ playing in the background of the music. You know what I mean? Like Saints on My Soul. I love that because you don't hear that much. Listen, I love Metallica from growing up for so many years of Metallica. I've Foo Fighters, but to see you guys bring that song up to number 3 on the chart, you know what I mean? That's so cool.
yeah, I mean, I have to say, I mean, it's seeing number 3 was very surreal for us. I think getting the blessing from Alice Cooper was surreal for us.
I can only imagine.
He's the one that really announced that single, and not, what I was very appreciative of was not only did he, because he could have just said, "Hey, here's a new band in theory, done," but after the song was done, he was talking about the band for a little bit. So, for me, just to get that, from rock royalty was cool. I mean, like Tony said, we all grew up, listening to Alice. So, that part of it was surreal. I always tell Tony, I was like, it does, like, I can't really put an emotion on it, So I'm like, wow, this is cool. And everybody's like, well, should you be more happy? Or like, no, I'm really happy. It's just, I'm taking it in,
You're humble. That's the best word I could say is humble, man. You're down. You're down in art, like not my level, but you got your feet on the ground and you're being humble about the success that you guys are having.
I appreciate that. It's I'm very appreciative of the journey. I mean, it's a lot of hard work, and I always call, I only show, obviously there's tons of pictures. You follow us on Facebook.
Yes, I do.
As you can see, there's a lot of guitar pictures and studio pictures and so forth. And but I think a lot of people don't realize that, especially me in the producer role on top of the guitar role is, as many days I'm doing, the 16-hour days, 4 days, 5 days in a row.
Right.
On top of my other responsibilities that I have to do, just to get, in theory, right, or where I want it to be. So yeah, so so it is humbling, because I realized or I appreciate the work of it, so it doesn't come easy.
No, it does not. But then when you think about how hard you are working and how much time you're giving into the band, the music, and as you as being the producer too on top of it, it's like you're living it 24/7. You know what I mean? Like you have to be there. And
Right.
people tell me, when I hear compliments from Tony and what you're telling me, hey, Tony just sent an email to Jimmy and you and raving about how the show went with me and him. It's a true humbling experience because I hear people tell me, "Hey, you're great, you're awesome," and you know what? Yeah, for 20 minutes I could be up at cloud nine, but
Right.
then I bring myself back down. Like, listen, you're not on Channel 7 News or 12. You know what I mean? Like, you are a legit podcaster. You're making a name for yourself, and that's what it's about. You know what I mean? That's where the appreciativeness of hard work that I do and like you guys do. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, well, and you may be, like you said, like you call yourself just a podcaster, but you know what? A year from now, 3 years from now, you could be on a network doing your own thing, or you know, um,
I could
or
be.
or something bigger.
Yeah.
So um,
But I'm humbled to talk to guys like Jimmy, you, Tony, the guys, the people I talk to here in Jersey, Colossal Street Jeff, Gene. These guys. It just means a lot to talk. You know what I mean? Because sometimes everyone's like, "Oh, it's another interview." I'm like, "No, no, no, no. My show is different. We're here. We're actually here to talk, like to explain and have fun and enjoy uh, what you guys are about. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things that people don't realize sometimes. They lose sight of it. I guess that's the best way I could say. They lose sight of that.
well, I always had that philosophy of, you know, it's just don't believe your own press. You know, just stay who you are. So a lot of times you can, people are giving you the compliments, and you're reading, all these positive, reviews, and your head can get that big, right? And
Yeah,
so I always had that thing, just believe your own press and just keep moving forward, and keep working.
yeah,
So
and that's something I'm working on because I love what I do. Like, you know,
right,
this is not. I'm gonna be honest with you. This is not work for me. This is me enjoying what I do. And people's like, "Oh, do you make money off this?" No, it's not about the money. It's about what I could do with other people. I
right,
like to raise awareness on the show. Like I raised awareness on autism, cerebral palsy, type 1 diabetes. I'm actually doing one about depression coming up very soon. So there's things I like to vindicate too. You know what I mean? It's not all about fun movies, restaurants, and stuff, but there's some hard stuff that people need to talk about.
sure,
And I give some. I guess I give the average person a platform to share their stories because it gives somebody else to talk about it.
right,
And I notice that some places don't talk about it. You know what I mean? So you have to build it. And I
right,
guess like in a movie Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come.
right, absolutely,
And that's how I feel. Like I'm building a brand of me. That's why I got the hat, the get up. It's because I'm building a brand. You know what I mean?
right. I got my hat too, by the way.
Which I love your hat better than my hat. and but that's the thing. You love what you do, and that's the passionate side of you that
Right,
I can say that for me, I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I put that passion all about it. You know what I
right,
mean? To give everything 110%. And I'm also a blogger. So like I have to blog things and I did what's your biggest fear? Did our dreams are reality? Can dreams come to reality? Stuff like that. And I put some important messages out there, like bullying too, stuff like that.
right.
It, it, and then I even wrote one, hey, it says anybody got left back? I got left back in fifth grade. I told my own story a little bit. So people realize like, hey, I'm not perfect. I messed up in life somewhere.
Well, that's a good thing in life. No, nobody, I say, nobody on this planet walks around with a halo, right? So Nobody's perfect.
Definitely not me. So, but I enjoy my life though. Um, very blessed. I have a loving family upstairs that loves me and backs me on this. You know what I mean? So for me,
Well, that's a
it's
big thing. Yeah. Having that support system around you is everything.
it is, and that's something I truly cherish and appreciate, especially my wife being a teacher. You know, she
Right.
works hard, and without her, I don't know where I'd be. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm
She's
sure the big thing is, you enjoy sharing your passion with her, and just as much as you love sharing it with her, I'm sure she appreciates you sharing it with her. And that's the beautiful thing in life. If you have a great partner in life,
Mhm.
share your passions together.
Yeah, we do a lot together, which is good, especially with the kids. You know what I mean?
Right.
I today was actually one of my tougher schedules. Go out to breakfast with my daughter, daddy daughter after morning. You know what I mean? Play some mini golf. Go to the town pool for a little bit. Recorded one show this afternoon. Fantasy draft tonight. Recorded with you tonight. You know, so it just shows like I'm busy, but I'm having a blast doing it though.
Yeah. So that sounds like a perfect day then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hang out with the family and I get to hang out with my wife.
Right.
And I can't complain, man. It's I don't know, it's just perfect. It's like you said, it's like the perfect day. You can't beat it.
Right. Exactly.
But Mike, I can't believe it's almost an hour that we've been talking, man. I
Is
can't.
that an hour? It
Yeah, just
feels.
about. Yeah, it's about because we're having a good time.
Right.
We're having a good time talking to each other. I mean, I can't thank you enough for coming on tonight, Mike. Let everybody know where they could find you personally. You know, if they want to follow you and all that.
Well, they always the website. You got the interiororiginal.com, and they have we have everything on there. So tour dates, and there's actually additional songs they can listen to on there. The bios, pictures, this everything is on there. Personally, obviously, we have the In Theory Facebook, and on a personal level, I'm Mike Mostert, so you can find me on Facebook as well or on Instagram, and you'll see a lot of times where I'm posting stuff that's in theory related, and sometimes not in theory related when it comes to music as well. So, um, but they're all connected. But yeah, that's all those above.
Oh, that's a good thing, man. Like I said, I can't thank you enough. True honor to have you on the show. I know you're working hard again tonight. Um,
I'm working hard doing this.
but still, man, you guys are rocking it out, man, and I really appreciate it. And like I said, if you guys come around the Jersey, New York City area, I told Tony I'd be out there in a heartbeat to see you guys and meet
I
up
know.
with you
I
guys.
know we're working on some shows. Jimmy and I have been discussing maybe Stone Pony and some stuff in Jersey. So I think it may be sooner than later.
All right. Well, once you find out, let me know because I'll be down there. I'll make a good weekend out of it with my wife too. I'll bring her with me.
Awesome. That'll be great.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much, guys. Mike, Tony too from In Theory, Jimmy, Fred Records, Fred Bard Records. I gotta thank him again too. Um, to everybody, as you can see, things do happen. This has been a great night tonight with Mike here and his playing his guitar a little bit in the background with us here. Uh,
Wait, easy top for you.
a little ZZ Top for us.
All right.
Again, it's just a true honor having you guys on. I cannot wait. When you guys come around the Jersey or New York area, I'm looking forward to it. And all I gotta say is how I end my show every night. It's nothing but love, peace, and happiness, everybody. Good night, everyone.
Good night.